Welcome back to the English Pronunciation Workshop with the American Language and Culture Center at Southern Utah University. The goal of this video is to talk about sentence stress patterns in English. In order to talk about sentence stress patterns, we need to review the schwa sound. As we said previously, the schwa sound is the unstressed vowel sound in English. Not only are some syllables in English unstressed, and so they tend towards that middle of the mouth sound, the sound, but there are words in English which are almost always unstressed as well. And so the vowel in those words, like these examples, the, of, was, also use the schwa sound. So the goal here is to talk about how word stress and sentence stress have some similarities. Let's review some words that have the schwa sound as part of their syllable or word stress. So here's the word ago. Okay. If we were using regular decoding and phonetic skills, we would predict that this word would be pronounced a go. And it could if it were pronounced very, very carefully, but native speakers of English put the stress on the second syllable, and so the first syllable is reduced to the schwa sound, ago. Same with agree or pilot. In the case of pilot, it's the second syllable that receives the unstressed vowel sound because the first syllable is stressed. Pilot, pilot. So how do we predict where the stress is? Well, we've already talked about this a little bit. When we have two-syllable words that are nouns and adjectives, they tend to be stressed on the first syllable. Now, two-syllable words that are verbs and prepositions tend to be stressed on the second syllable. And so that's one way to predict word stress patterns in English. Just as a reminder that stress patterns in English are created with our voice by using a slower, louder, and a higher pitch to our voice. So when we say something more slowly, loudly, and with a higher pitch, that shows that we're giving it the stress. Unstressed syllables, on the other hand, then are faster, quieter, and at a lower pitch, almost to the point where we can't hear those syllables very well. If you have ever listened to a fluent English speaker talk quickly, sometimes it sounds like they're only saying some words, or like all of their words are squished together. And this is because of the stress patterns in English. This can make it listening very difficult in English. But the more we recognize that this is what's happening, the better we can get at recognizing then what syllables we need to pay attention to in order to understand meaning. So here we want to look at a comparison of lexical or stress, word stress, with phrasal or sentence stress. So here are three words that have different stress patterns: politician, attention, and electrician. Okay, now these words have some similar endings on them, but we can see based on the little O's and the big O's that politician has three syllables that are unstressed, and one syllable, the big one, that's stressed. And that stress syllable is coming the penultimate or the second to last syllable, politician. And so it's the t that gets the stress. And then those other syllables are quieter, quicker, softer, okay? And they are said more quickly. Politician. So instead of politicien, it's politician. Okay, now attention, okay, attention, that has three syllables, and we're giving stress to the second syllable there. Same with electrician, okay, we're getting the stress there. And often we see this pattern in English, words that end in a C-A-I-N or C-I-O-N or a T-I-O-N. These words tend to be stressed right before that final syllable. And it's when we add that suffix that we kind of get some shifting in the stress patterns. And so that's another good way to predict stress patterns in English, is that when we see that particular ending, we know that we would put the stress right before it. Now, I brought up these words because these words also have the same number of syllables as the phrases next to them. It's important. It's important. Also, 4 syllables. but only one of those syllables gets the most stress. And that's because the word important is stressed on the second syllable. And the word it's is not a very important word. And so it doesn't get stressed. And so we see the main stress in that phrase, it's important, having the same stress pattern as politician. Politician, it's important. Politician, it's important. So they both have stress in a similar place, depending on the number of syllables they have. Now here's another one here, attention, and then the phrase, he's honest. Okay, he's not getting much stress. And honest has two syllables, but the first syllable is getting the stress. It's an adjective in English. And as we said, a two-syllable adjective in English tends to be stressed on the first syllable. So he's honest. He's honest. That's the stress one. On. And then the ist is really quiet. He's honest. Attention. And then our last example on the page there, we have the pattern of electrician. Electrician. And then we have, can I help you? And the help is really the most important part of this phrase. That's the main verb. That's where we need the most attention. And so that's what gets the most stress. The other words in the sentence, it's a helper verb, can, and then we have some pronouns. They tend not to be stressed a lot in the average sentence. And so the main stress is on the help. Can I help you? Electrician. And so understanding which words in a sentence will be stressed makes the sentence easier to understand, just like knowing which syllable of a word needs to be stressed makes the word easier to understand. So as we learn these stress patterns at both the word level and the sentence level in English, we can improve our listening skills, but we can also improve our pronunciation skills. And helping students to recognize these patterns can help them understand why sometimes it's difficult to listen in English and what they can do to start recognizing patterns so that they can understand words more easily. So here's maybe the best way to predict phrasal or sentence stress. And to do this, we need to understand the difference between two main categories of words. We have content words and we have function words. Now, content words are the primary meaning words in English, our nouns, our verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Function words have a more grammatical purpose. They work more to tell relationships between words. They don't carry as much meaning. We have things like prepositions, articles, pronouns, auxiliary verbs, okay, like modals, other kinds of things. And so they're not as much meaning. And so in English, we tend to stress the content words. They get the most stress in the sentence, they get the most time, and we say them the most clearly and loudly. The function words are not expressed very loudly or clearly. We say them quickly. Sometimes they are mumbled. We don't hear the sounds very clearly. And because of that, function words also tend to have more of a schwa vowel sound instead of a clear vowel sound like we've been learning with our decoding and phonetic skills. Let's take a look at this sentence here that describes an activity that two people do together. I want you, and if you like, you can pause the video and identify which words in this sentence are the content words. So we're talking here adverbs, adjectives, main nouns, main verbs. If you can identify those, then you would predict that those words will be pronounced the most clearly. They will receive the main sentence stress. The other words in the sentence will be pronounced quicker, faster, and quieter. So take a moment, try to identify the content words, and then we will compare and we'll say the sentence together. So here I've highlighted what I would predict to be probably the most important content words in the sentence. I'm going to say the sentence using regular sentence stress. As I do that, you should recognize that the words that are underlined are spoken the most clearly. The words that are not underlined are said quickly and quietly. Later that day, we decided to visit a small cafe. I ordered a milkshake, and she got a couple of cookies. It was a great way to spend the end of the day. So you'll notice that there are some words that I said that were almost you couldn't recognize them. They were said so quickly. If we don't do this, where we balance the stress content words and then the unstressed function words, it's actually harder for English speakers to understand one another. They're so used to this stress pattern. If every word were to receive equal stress, it sounds like a robot in English, and it's very difficult for native speakers to process and think about it because they're having to filter out which words matter and which words don't matter for the main meaning. For example, if I were to read the sentence, later that day, we decided to visit a small cafe. I ordered a milkshake, and that is so hard for a native speaker to understand. But when I put the stress on the content words and I unstress the function words, it makes the sentence much easier for a native speaker to recognize and understand meaning. Later that day, we decided to visit a small cafe. I ordered a milkshake, and she got a couple of cookies. It was a great way to spend the end of the day. So that's a great thing you can do with students is you could take some sentences and you could practice identifying content words versus function words, and then practice saying the content words clearly while more quickly passing over the function words. Now, it's not to say you want to say them so quickly that we can't recognize them. And you can still say them clearly if you're not comfortable moving over the words too fast. But this can be a great way to help learners understand why when they hear a fluent speaker of English talk, they maybe can't recognize every single word. And it's because of this sentence stress pattern. That's what's happening. And that's why some of the words don't seem like they're pronounced clearly. Now, in addition to what we consider regular sentence or emphatic stress, we also have something that we would call emphatic stress. An emphatic stress is where we take certain words in the sentence and we give them additional stress. And we do this in order to highlight something important in that sentence. And when we do this, we can sometimes change the meaning of the sentence, even if it has the exact same words. When emphatic stress is used, we are showing the listener that there's something about that sentence that has a special meaning. So naturally, our first sentence here, Carrie doesn't want to hike the trail this Friday. We would identify the content words, Carrie, want, hike, trail, Friday. Those would be the words we would expect to receive natural sentence stress. Carrie doesn't want to hike the trail this Friday. Now, some of the other words, doesn't, to, the, this, those won't receive stress. They'll be unstressed. They might take on more of a schwa sound. They're quiet and fast. But if we give extra emphasis to the word carry, like I'm representing with the capital letters in that second version of the sentence, now I would say it this way. Carrie doesn't want to hike the trail this Friday. So now I'm communicating to my listeners that someone might want to hike the trail this Friday, but it's not Carrie. Carrie is not interested. Now, our second sentence here, Carrie doesn't want to hike the trail this Friday. Usually we don't emphasize something like a helper verb, but here it's got this negation, and this might be a sentence where we stress the doesn't word because we're trying to clarify. Someone is maybe confused. Is Carrie interested? Is she not interested? And so we will stress the doesn't to make it clear to the listener that absolutely not. Carrie is not interested. Let's look at the last sentence, last version. Carrie doesn't want to hike the trail this Friday. When we give emphasis to the word want, we're highlighting that there's a question about the want there, okay? And this is that maybe Carrie is not interested in hiking the trail, but she will do it anyways. Maybe she feels responsible to do it. Maybe she wants to be with her friends and they're doing it, and so she'll do it anyways, but she doesn't have a personal desire to do it. Now, you could go through this sentence and then highlight other words and see how they impact the meaning of the sentence. Now, be aware, sometimes function words can't receive emphatic stress. If you stress a function word, sometimes it doesn't carry any meaning with it. For example, the to, Carrie doesn't want to hike the trail this Friday. I don't know that we could add any extra meaning to that. It would just sound unnatural. But maybe Carrie doesn't want to hike the trail this Friday, even though that's generally a function word because it's functions as a demonstrative in front of the word Friday, it may have particular meaning with emphatic stress. Maybe Carrie wants to hike a different Friday, but not the Friday of this week. So this is another great activity you can do with students to help them understand how stress impacts meaning. And they can practice providing emphatic stress on words and then talking about what is that emphatic stress implying? What is the additional meaning that's not contained in the words that the stress is helping to communicate? So in this video, we looked at sentence stress, and we talked about how the best way to identify sentence stress is to identify which words are function words and which words are content words. The content words will be stressed with the clearest sounds. The function words are going to be quicker and softer, and they may have the schwa sound as their main vowel sound. And then we also talked about emphatic stress and how emphatic stress can be added to regular sentence stress to change the meaning of the sentence and to imply additional meanings that are not contained within the words of the sentence. I hope that this discussion of sentence and emphatic stress can help you and your students better understand not only listening skills, but also pronunciation and speaking skills.